I just want to be brutally honest with everything I say in my videos. Hopefully, that's what connects you to these videos. And for instance, I made a bad mistake a while back and I got addicted to benzos. If you know what benzos are, if you've ever been addicted to benzos, it is the worst drug to be addicted to because you could actually die if you don't get them. And so it's like worse than alcohol. Alcohol you can die, but usually after 7 days you detox, you're fine. Benzos is like if you do a 7 day detox, you're basically you have to learn to eat, function, walk, talk. Takes like 6 months. You need like a caregiver if you just stop in 7 days. You can stop in 7 days in a detox, but you're not going to be like getting up and going to the gym. You have to taper slowly. And there's this lady called Ashton. She created this manual called the Ashton Manual, which was you need to drop your dose by 10% every month, and that's like could take you 2 years to get off it. And then even then, people have called pause, which is protracted withdrawal, which is like your brain still learning to cope without having this drug because it's basically your brain has been addicted to chemically. It doesn't even mean you have to be an addict, but it means like you're just dependent on it. And I made the mistake of when I was in Costa Rica, I made the mistake of getting on it, and it has been horrible trying to get off it. I've tried to get off it years. And this year, they made a change in the regulations. They wanted to stop prescribing benzos. So anyone that's on benzodiazepines that even has prescriptions for them, they're trying to just cut them off. So I've been trying to get a doctor to help me get off it. No doctor will prescribe it to me. And the thing is, it got worse is when I was in Costa Rica and I almost died, it shows a lapse of 6 months that I wasn't on it because I was in Costa Rica. Even though I was taking Valium, I was taking it under a doctor in Costa Rica. No doctor in the US is going to see that prescription. It just doesn't transfer over. And then they're not going to believe me if I show them, look, I almost died, I had sepsis, they were going to amputate my leg, I was in the hospital, I had surgery. They don't even care. They don't want to even deal with it. And now there's no doctors. Have you ever tried to do telehealth? It's all nurse practitioners. You can't even find a psychiatrist. And then they don't even want to listen to your story because they're like, that just risks my license. I'd rather just have someone come in and says I'm depressed. Me is like, that's a whole nother story, trying to get me off Valium. Now the DEA is saying we want to cut Valium. And it's like, but what about all the millions of people that have been prescribed this that are trying to get off it? Now they're just going to cut them. So imagine how much anxiety that would bring me is that I basically I can't, I've tried any way I can. I've talked to dozens of doctors. No one will do it. And of course, what you get frustrated, and then you get to a point where you're like, well, I can't. There's nothing I can do about it. And so what I've done is basically I've had to find other alternatives, which not the best way, but it keeps me from going in through withdrawal. And I had to do it in a different way, luckily. But if I did not have the other means to get it, I would have to basically could die. And a lot of people, if they just stop, they would go in seizures and die. Or I'd go into like a psych ward and they would taper me off, and it would take me 6 months to a year to learn how to eat, function. And then from there, people even have takes them sometimes 5 years to learn how to function. So imagine the anxiety and just you need to find a doctor. I need this so bad. It's like imagine you're a cancer patient and you need this drug. And the more that you push for it, the more that it just pushes away. So you have to learn to be like, okay, I accept the fact that I may not find one. Well, what happens then? Well, I can't, there's nothing that I can do to force someone to do it. And hopefully, maybe along the way, I find a doctor that says, you know what, I believe your story, I'll help you get off. But me pushing and pushing and trying harder and harder, it's not helping. I just keep hitting the wall after wall after wall. And it's like a catch 22 because it's something that is potentially fatal. It's something that is would could potentially harm me if I don't find one. So it's like I need it, but then again, the more I need it, the more I keep pushing it away. So I have other means to keep me from going to withdrawal. I don't want to really go into that because it's not really, it's like a gray area. And I'm lucky that I'm able to have found that. And that keeps me from going to withdrawals, and I can taper it myself. And that's pretty much what I have to do. And sometimes in life, you're given these alternatives, and sometimes you're given, they're not the best alternatives. Yes, it would be lovely to have a doctor that says, hey, I'll help you get off. But things change now. And the DEA said, we don't want to do this anymore. And I have to live with it. Like, I made the choice of making a mistake years ago, 3 years ago, and I have to live with that. And I've tried so many times to get off it, but this time it's like, I have to. There's no other choice. And the more I push, the more I get backtracked, the more I hit a wall. And so sometimes we realize that we can't control everything. You can't control a doctor, you can't control the circumstances. And sometimes by letting loose and letting go of the control, it allows you to just feel, okay, well, whatever happens happens. It's like, if I'll do research, if I find someone, I contact someone, but I'm not going to sit there all day like I did contacting nurse practitioners on telehealth, because all it did was give me same result. Look, there's a gap, 6 months. I don't believe you. You're off the drug because you were in Costa Rica, and I'm like, I had surgery, and they don't believe me. So I'm just being raw and honest because it's a scary situation to be in. I mean, you could die. I could die if I don't have it. Luckily, I have means to get it. Other people probably wouldn't, or they would have to just go to a detox, 7-day detox off this. And there's a lot of information that say there's a lot of damage that is done from 7-day detox off of benzos. And Eminem talked about it. He said he stared at a wall for 2 weeks straight, just stared at a wall blank for 2 weeks straight. And then he said it took him years. It took him like a year to learn how to talk, walk, and eat, and all that. And I mean, he survived. And I try to paint a picture, try to reframe things, because imagine if I had brain cancer or something, and you have 6 months to live. Well, that would be a lot worse, right? So, and there's people in that situation right now. There's people that are trying to get a drug that maybe they can't get, or a liver transplant that if they don't get in 6 months, they're going to die. So it's all relative. Everything is. And you have to learn, like, sometimes life just throws some really, really bad things at you. And the first thing you want to do is like control the system, control it, and be like, this is ridiculous. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're cutting people off, and now you're ruining people's lives. But I can't control that. I can only control how I react. And then I also, you know what? If that happens, it happens. If I have to go to Costa Rica to get it, I go to Costa Rica. It's like there's always other options. And luckily, I have my own way to taper without a doctor. And it's not the best, and it's not the most safest, but it is an option. And a lot of people don't even have that. So I have to be grateful for that. And other people don't have that. So I think you have to really, really, and I think that's why when people are going through a lot of shit in their lives, and they hit rock bottom, and they go through just turmoil and hell, it's why they don't get mad over spilt milk, because they're like, man, I was through so much more hell. I was through things that I had to figure out, how am I going to survive this? How am I going to survive this? And I've been through things like this before. I've almost died, multiple times, and then it's just like another thing, and then trying to get off Suboxone, which is another drug, and trying to get off that, and it's like you gotta take one thing at a time, and that's just a medication that is just the withdrawals are horrible, and luckily you can't die from them, but it's just horrible, and I just have to be grateful for things that I have in my life, and grateful that you have to reframe things because things could always be worse. And I know that because I used to be the person who would get mad at little things, simple things. Get mad at, oh, I didn't get the girl to call me back. I didn't get the sales today. My business went down and all this stuff. And then you realize, like, none of that means anything. And I remember there was this surfer. He created the company called Almeric, which is one of the biggest surf brands in the world. Kelly Slater used to surf for him, and his daughter had cancer. And imagine this guy created this business. It was world renowned, the biggest surf company in the world. And his daughter, little daughter, like 5-year old, had cancer, and he sold the business, something that he created like with his life, his passion, because his daughter was more important. And they did everything they could to save her. And fortunately, she passed away. And they sold their home. They had a nice home. They gave up everything. But you could see how something that he might at one point, if his daughter was fine and he lost his business, he would be like, oh my God, I lost my business. This is everything I created. But then something worse happens, unfortunately, like his daughter, who is like worth more than a business, everything. They gave up their house, everything. People cry when they're like, my house got destroyed in a fire. I hear people say, when these fires happen, people they complain about the fires being destroyed. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened, but there's a lot of people that don't have houses. My mom worked as a principal and then a director of uh, with her doctorate for 30 plus years, and she doesn't even own a house. So when people are crying that they lost a house, she raised 3 kids on her own, and worked freaking 12-hour days, got her doctorate, and she doesn't even own a house. And people are like crying, like, GoFundMe accounts for a house. And then you have a guy like Al Merrick, his daughter is dying, and he's given up he had a beautiful home in Santa Barbara, his company, which was like world renowned. I mean, imagine you built something that like the whole surfing community knew, and he was like a legend for this business, and he had to sell it because something was more important to him, and he would do it. And I'm sure, in just because his daughter passed away doesn't mean he would have been like, oh, I I wish I didn't sell my business. I'm sure he said I'm glad I did everything I could because that was more important. So a lot of times we get put in situations and we think, man, life can't get any worse and it sucks and this. And for me it was like, I'm like thinking, I wake up and sometimes I'm like, man, how did I get here in this situation? I got this, and then I'm like, well, it always could be worse. It always could be worse. I could have brain cancer. Knock on wood, I don't want to say negative things, but I still have my dog. I told a story about I almost lost my dog, and he swam in the water after chasing a swan, and he swam miles and miles. It was a duck dog, and he swam miles and miles and miles, and I thought I lost him. I yelled for hours for him. It was cold. It was 40-degree weather, 40 degrees out. The water's probably 40 degrees, and it was late. He was going to die. And if I didn't find him, and we were about to leave, and I accepted the fact that he probably was dead. And last minute, before we left, he ran up to me and he smelled me. And it was like, you know, how do you take these things for granted all the time until you think you lose something, and then you get it back and you're like, oh my God, like, I appreciate it so much. And I couldn't imagine losing him. And it was like, I was already going through so much shit, and then it was like this. But then again, it's like you all everything can always be worse. So yes, horrible situation for me. Like the here, no doctor will prescribe medication that I need, and you could say, well, you're an idiot because you got on it. Well, yeah, we make mistakes. I wish I had never touched it, but I did. I was it was around my father who brought up a lot of like bad memories. I mean, he woke up every morning. And this was me trying to get I had to get a loan for Amazon because I was doing really well. So I had to stay with him, and the guy was wake up yelling because he spilled coffee. And it was nonstop, nonstop. I'd hear him on the phone talking outside with his friend saying how I'm crazy and bipolar and all this shit, and it was just like I couldn't take it, and I just impulsively took Xanax, and one thing turned to another. I got on it, and then it was like I couldn't figure out how to get off it, and then I couldn't find doctor to get off it. Luckily, I did, but I thought it was easy to find doctors. And then I get to Oregon and no one will prescribe it. And I think they cracked down on it. They decided they wanted to change it. And of course, they say, well, 6 months, you weren't on it. And I say, well, 6 months, I was in freaking Costa Rica getting surgery. And then they say, well, you know, your last prescription you had in Texas, and you haven't had one for 2 months. So where are you getting your benzos now? Well, I'm getting it from somewhere else because I can't. I would have gone into, I would have died. But what can I do? Can't force. I can't grab a doctor by the throat and say, "Give me this." And just like in life, you have something that happens bad to you. You just gotta work. You have to deal with it. And things can get worse. Things can be much worse. And that's why I think when we practice gratitude, and sometimes we have to like really be put in these situations, because that's what makes us appreciate things. When I've lost 3 dogs, and I've loved every single one of them, and because I don't have a lot of I don't have any friends. Friends are just, unless you have a good friend, you're lucky. But friends, they push you. They and make a video. They laugh at me, and I'm like, if people are gonna be, they're not gonna be positive for you. They're Most people are gonna be negative towards you. And I shouldn't do another video of friends, because friends is one thing that I think people get held back on. But a dog is always going to be there for you no matter what. I lost 3 dogs, and a lot of people say I'll never get a dog again. It's so sad. And but the beauty of like having a dog, the love that they give you, I dealt with the pain. It's sad. Even thinking about my last pet dog passed away. I'll never be able to see him again. But would I take that back? Like, just because I didn't want to go through the pain? That's like saying I'm gonna live life, but not fall in love and not do things that are adventurous because I don't want to get hurt. And it's what a what a pussy, like, sorry to say that, what a wimpy way to live life. You gotta like, we don't have that much time here on this earth, and you're gonna sit here and you know what? Love as much as you can, because you don't know how long you have, you don't know how long they have. And then it's like you get your heart broken. That shows you how much you cared about this animal or this person. And that's something that's special. So I'm not, can't be motivational every day. And I think people that try to be motivated, it's like people that like listen to watch motivational videos every day. It's like some days you just suck, man. Some days suck. And you just have to allow them to suck. You can't be trying to push yourself to be, um, gonna try to be the best I can be. Just try to do whatever you can. I'm here at the gym. I mean, I'm gonna go to the gym, but I'm not gonna be like trying to do all that I can do. I'm just trying to do the minimum amount I can do today, just because it sucks. Life sometimes just sucks. So let me know what you think. Is this depressing? I try to just be honest and real because I think people are just tired of seeing bullshit like motivational shit because not everyone is like this every day. You do your best you can every day, but not everyone's like wake up and ready to start the day. Not unless unless you've just never gone through anything in life. Life is full of fucking shit, man. So, this is Daniel with Live Life in Your Flame. It's part of life, and let me know what you guys think.